everybody, it's Naomi here from the Rapid Renovation Formula. Are you wanting to take that jump into renovating for wealth, but you're just not sure how much money you can really make? Are you wondering whether it's even worth renovating in a market where there's so many highs and so many flat markets? Are you worried that you might not see the return on your investment if you buy and renovate? Well, today I want to give you a few tips to make sure you go into the renovating game very prepared. Now, I know shows such as The Block and House Rules have made the concept of renovating for wealth very, very popular. They make it look like anyone with a hard hat and a shovel could come into any old place and transform it. And more the point, then spend the rest of the year sipping French martinis in a hammock in Hawaii. Well, I'm really sorry to burst your bubble, but that isn't just that simple. If it was, everyone would be doing it right. So what's the goal here? The goal is to secure the property that fits your strategy at the right price, number one. It is totally true. Our current property market in places like Sydney and Melbourne, it's pretty hot. In other places around the country, it's slow and at times flat. And in the face of these sometimes pretty fierce competitions to secure a property, you can feel like you're never going to get the right one. But that doesn't mean that you just throw in the towel. It doesn't mean that you walk away from it all. Yeah, you know, the property market can be quite hot at the moment, especially in Sydney and Melbourne. And it can make finding that ideal renovation property just that little bit trickier. But that doesn't mean that there aren't those gems, that they don't exist. Now, when we look at a market that's maybe a little bit cooler around our country, it's much easier to pick up that dream renovation project. There aren't as many people fighting for them, so you can be sure to find yourself a bargain. But on the flip side of that, at the same time, this can mean that there isn't much bite when it comes to selling your property. And whereas in a hot market, people would be jumping all over one another to get to your renovated property. So what this is telling you is there isn't really a bad time to renovate. It all comes down to choosing the right property. And the first thing you need to do to start that journey is do your research. There are so many factors to consider when you're looking for the perfect renovation project. And one of the most important ones for you to do that you can do to prepare for this journey is to research. There's nothing worse than blindly jumping into a project because you saw a house and it was the first one you looked at and the kitchen needed a reno. You need to be looking at it from a very different angle. You know, who are you renovating for? What are you planning to do to the property once you've renovated it? Are you looking to lease it? Are you looking to sell it? Does it even suit your renovation strategy? So don't fall into that trap of compromising for something that doesn't fit your goals and your strategy just because it's going for a good price. If your strategy, for example, is to transform a 4-bedroom plan, open plan, masterpiece home, don't jump into the first bargain 2-bedroom villa you see. It won't work for the strategy that you have in place, and you'll end up wasting time, energy, and money, and the end profits could suffer as a result. So, how do you find the right property at the right price? Your patch is your own market, okay? So the second thing to consider to find the right property at the right price is about how you focus your efforts on your particular patch. Every single day a new article gets released in Australia about how crazy the Australian housing market is or how bad it is in a different area. And they may send shivers down your spine, second guessing your decision to be in this renovation game. But what are these articles actually saying? Are they saying that every single apartment, every single villa, every single house and caravan is ludicrously overpriced and out of reach in every suburb across Australia? Absolutely not. Yes, Sydney's Bondi may be experiencing a surge right now, and Melbourne's Toorak may be experiencing that as well with its mansion-lined streets, but these are just 2 suburbs in a sea of thousands across Australia. And just like no 2 properties are the same in 2 completely different suburbs, you can't just throw the whole of the Australian property market under one blanket. And if you've already done your research, you would have realized that there is no reason to let these type of generalizations in the media scare you. Australia is made up of thousands of micro markets. Each state has its own market, each city has its own market, each suburb is its own market. And even each street could be its own market. Just as two regional cities will be in their own markets, so too can two apartment buildings in the same area. Your patch is its own market and can and should only be compared to similar properties within that patch. And that's because there are so many variations within buildings, within streets, within suburbs, within towns, within cities. And that will always be able to find something that suits your patch, provided you do the research. And remember, guys, that your patch doesn't have to stay the same forever. If you decide on pursuing a particular area, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to stick with it until the end of time. Markets change and so do you. So if an area you've been looking in stops aligning with your strategy, feel free to move on and find one that does. Or perhaps after a few renovations, you decide that the market in that area has shifted, but you want to stick with it. You can. Just be sure to adjust your strategy instead. Keep in mind that if you want to be able to shift your patch and strategy to fit market conditions, you'll need to keep on top of any changes, and that means research. That is the great thing about renovating for wealth. There isn't a one-size-fits-all strategy, and neither is there only one strategy to profit from. If your only income stream depends on the market rising, then you might find yourself in some trouble when and if it starts to cool. Renovating for wealth, on the other hand, realistically ensures that you can mould and adjust the market so that you're guaranteed to profit whatever the current market temperature is. So there you have it. They are my 4 main pillars that I want you to focus on to remember that you can renovate if you're adding value and you know what you're doing in any market around our country. Thanks for joining me. Did you know I wrote a book all about renovating to create wealth and freedom in your life? I've added the link below in the description for you. Enjoy.